Hey everyone, and welcome to a new Video Attic new release roundup. My name is Michael Vaughn, and as always, we are joined by the very awesome co-host. I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Michael. My name is Dylan Gonzalez. I am a senior critic for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And I am here today to discuss some great movies with my friend here, and I'm very excited.
Yes, absolutely. And as always, please check out Home Dance. It is awesome. I will make sure to link to that in the description. All right. Well, I will let you kick it off.
All right. Yes, I have a title here. It won't be unfamiliar to people who pay attention to the Video Attic, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper myself on it since I didn't have a chance. And that is the Giallo Essentials Yellow Edition from Arrow, which I really had a time digging into this past weekend. Just a real quick, like you did a good job at showing off the packaging before, but it's a really nice 3-disc release, which bundles 3 previous release movies that Arrow put out into one nice packaging. These movies are What Have They Done to Your Daughters? Torso, and Strip Nude for Your Killer, which I gotta say, these Giallo movies have the best titles. Yeah. I mean, they just really evoke some kind of visceral mood that puts you right into this kind of grimy, sleazy territory. And what a time these were. I'll try to go pretty quickly on these. But compared to the first Red volume, these took things up to a whole nother level. These are much more sleazier. There's way much more nudity. There's even more bloodshed. They just really went all out. They did a good job of curating these selections. So like I said, really quickly, I'll just go through my initial impressions. These are all from 2K restorations. So they all look really nice. The first is What Have They Done to Your Daughters? Which may be my favorite of the 3 here. It's from the director of Cult 38 Special, which some Arrow fanatics might remember from the Years of Lead box set they put out last year, which actually really reminded me a lot of this movie. The basic plot of this is there's a teenage suicide at the beginning of the film that may not be a suicide, and it's eventually leads to an underground teenage prostitution ring, which they are trying to solve. And much like some of those titles in the Years of Lead set, it does not always end up completely satisfying because corruption in the world and police trying to in corruption, there's always going to be people on top who are keeping the investigation at bay. But it's a really interesting look at I find this to be almost more of a crime movie than a proper giallo, but there is the man with the black gloves and a guy on a motorcycle with a cleaver killing people, so there's plenty of that. But I did really enjoy this, and I did like seeing the lead investigator, who is the lead of Suspicious Death of a Minor, which I just watched in the Sergio Martino collection. So that was a fun overlap. So yeah, that disc has a bunch of has some commentary, some interviews, and some nice video essays. And then there's Torso here, which is a Sergio Martino film. So just speaking about him, which is about a group of schoolgirls at college, and they start getting picked off, and it's really sleazy. It kind of plays out kind of as expected, but all of these movies are pretty much people in black gloves killing people, so it's a trope of the genre. I like this pretty well. I think it builds nicely. The surprise wasn't completely surprising, but I enjoyed it overall. It does have the English and Italian cut, and the Italian cut's a little bit longer than the English cut, so that's pretty interesting. And then there's Strip Nude for Your Killer, which is the sleaziest of the bunch. And it's also probably the most humorous. It's about basically, without giving away the whole movie, a person trying to enact revenge on a bunch of people for reasons that if you pay attention to the beginning of the film, you'll pick up on. But it is also quite an interesting movie. It's very tawdry and humorous, and all of these movies packaged together are very nice together. If you want to look deeper into the packaging, the reversible artwork and everything, you look at Mike's video from a little while back. It's very informative, and yeah, it's a really great set from Era. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of all those movies. I think Torso is my favorite. At least that's the one I feel like I've revisited the most. Yeah, so my first release is something completely opposite, but it is the Matrix, the new Matrix, and Resurrections, and I almost said Revolution. Sorry. So it has a really nice packaging, slipcover. The back, a little closer view of the back. Now, it doesn't actually say what the features are, but it actually is pretty stacked with really great extras. But to not get too ahead of myself, the movie itself I liked. I know fans were a little bit split, but I thought it was a really interesting sort of deconstruction of the films. And you're either on board with that or you're not. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I watched it I think 3 times now. Yeah, so it does have close to 2 hours worth of features. It looks fantastic. It doesn't have, like, if you saw this streaming, it obviously like doesn't have that like compression issues. It's a very at times colorful, but like any Matrix movie, it's a little bit more muted color palette wise, but everything's really nice and clean, crisp. There is a little bit of film like quality, even though this was shot on digital, which was really nice to see. So yeah, if it is worth noting that the extras are all included on the Blu-ray and not the UHD disc. So yeah, but if you are a fan or if you haven't seen it yet, I feel like this is sort of like the time to do it, because Warner Brothers really did a really great job of packaging. I'm surprised it didn't show off more of the features, because like I said, there's a ton of new like featurettes. So
yeah, I completely agree with you. I dug into this last night because I just submitted my review for the site this morning, and that release is stacked. There's just a section alone that's like probably 49 minutes, I think, of just them dissecting different scenes that are like key throughout the movie. And then on top of that, there's like another hour. So there's like pretty much about 2 hours of extras on top of that. So it's a really stacked release. And I also really enjoyed the movie. A shameless plug, the aforementioned Home Dance. We did discuss The Matrix Resurrections back when it came out in theaters. So back in December. So if you are interested to hear more of my thoughts, you should listen to that episode. But I really enjoyed the approach for this movie.
Yeah, it's a really fun one. And like I said, if you're only really seen it like streaming and you wanted dig a little deeper, this release, as we both mentioned, it is jam-packed full of really cool new features. So I feel like I know, like you said this before with the was the Kingsman release, but it's always so refreshing when a studio like puts a lot of effort behind some of the extras, which I think is sort of key when you have the option of streaming at home, which is nice, don't get me wrong, but like we obviously both super love physical media, so that's an extra incentive to get the physical copy. So
Yeah, like great special features. And then, like you said, from watching the HBO Max stream to watching this like actual 4K disc, it's just like a much better viewing experience for, in my opinion.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I curated my releases to kind of go with a theme and kind of like continuing the Giallo theme. I have a Dario Argento film called The Card Player. This is through Scorpion and Kino Classics. I don't know. There's no double-sided artwork, but the disc here. I gotta be honest, I didn't love this movie, and I haven't watched a lot of Argento's newer stuff, and this really felt like a misfire for him. It felt like, so this was like in the early 2000s, and they really seemed to be going hard on the tech boom, and this takes this standard like serial killer tropes and tries to interweave it with the technology. So it's about a like a FBI type bureau that's being kind of like playing a cat and mouse game with this serial killer who calls himself the card player, who abducts women and plays like online poker against them. And if they lose, he's going to kill these women. But it's like very early days of internet, so it's all really like very cheesy, like computer graphics and just like very rudimentary webcams, and it just feels like a relic of its time. I mean, there were points that were interesting, like there's Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones plays a lead role in it, but it just all felt kind of like he was trying to capture like a previous glory that didn't quite work out. He just, Argento, at least in this type of story, just doesn't seem to jive with like a modern context. Like his films, especially the way he makes these films, like something I've found watching Giallo films, it's just like it's kind of messes with my mind having the way they were filmed with like different people speaking different languages and how it's presented. Like no one was recorded on set basically, and it's just like all post looped. So it's like people speaking English and Italian, but then like it's all changed in the final mix. Like Italian audiences get all Italian, but it's all dubbed. They kind of do that with this, but it's like a modern film, so it feels really weird. Like some of the English, like there's an English and Italian track. The English speakers are speaking English, but then he'll just have certain characters speaking Italian, but like dubbed in English. So it's just like, I understand at that time that why post looping was necessary. I just don't think like an early 2000s movie needed that. So I think he needed to adapt to either just do Italian or just do English, in my opinion. Nevertheless, like it's an interesting movie. It just feels kind of dated. The master itself, like the release, it's kind of older, but like kind of it's solid enough. There's like a good commentary track. There's a new interview with Dario Argento that he kind of goes into why he made this film. It just didn't completely work for me. For Argento Completus, it's a pretty solid release from Scorpion. It just, when you had so many classics like Argento has, it just feels kind of weird to just like put this out. It kind of feels like The Net with Sandra Bullock, but with extra murder. So it didn't quite work for me, but some audiences will probably enjoy it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't have that release yet. I know like once upon a time Anchor Bay did a steelbook of a kind of random smattering of what I guess what they had in their Argento catalog, and Card Player was one of them. And yeah, I definitely agree with that assessment. It's not very good. I mean, especially when you had a director who's like had some of the highest highs in the genre. I mean, Suspiria, Deep Red, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and those are just like the ones that are super well known. Like there's so many other great films that he's done in the past. So yeah, I mean it's definitely good to have those for completeness sake. Like I'm a sucker for having everything from a director, whether it be good or bad. So I'll end up probably getting that.
It's what we do.
Yep. So I have a film that's actually eerily sort of relevant to this time, and that is Warner Archive's Edge of Darkness.
Oh,
So
nice.
there's a good look at the product. Not a lot of features, but that's what's going on there. So this stars Errol Flynn, and it's kind of a departure for him, because when I think of Errol Flynn, I feel like I think of like this swashbuckling adventure movies, but he's definitely done a very broad spectrum of films, and this is definitely one of his more meaty, dramatic, like serious movies. So the movie basically is about a small fishing town that's fighting against Nazi oppression. It's kind of eerie to watch it now with what's going on, but it's such a moving and powerful film. It's really excellent. And I know I sound like a broken record, but Warner Archive has been absolutely dominating like the four. So this isn't a 4K or a 2K, but it looks incredible. Like it's pristine looking. So it's a black and white film, but as always, Warner Archive does a really good job at like balancing the contrast between the black and white, and it's not too dark, but it doesn't also go the other extreme and get washed out, being too bright. There's barely any kind of artifacts or scratches or any kind of problems as far as like the print goes. It's just really stunning. Like I was watching this thinking, wow, this movie is over 70 years old at this point. So this was 1942. Yeah, so that's kind of crazy to think that we have a movie that this is this old but is this well taken care of. And yeah, I feel like everybody should support Warner Archive, and it's wonderful to have these kind of movies out and looking so refreshed and amazing. So yeah, honestly, this is one of that I had never heard about prior. I know like there's other movies with that title, so it made it a little tricky looking it up, but yeah, it was the OG Edge of Darkness. So yeah, really fantastic though. And as always, I always go in with high expectations with Warner Archives, and they never disappoint.
Yeah, I completely agree. I haven't gotten my February shipment for Warner Archive yet, unfortunately, but they are one of my favorite labels. But like you said, even when there's a film I've never heard of, usually I'll go into it and still be impressed. If not like the story itself, but at least their presentation, because they are pretty much the best in the business as far as like consistency between title to title. I just love them so much.
Yeah.
Speaking of older movies, I'm going quite old. And this is from the Ernst Lubitsch collection, and that is Three Women, which is a silent film from 1924. So yeah, people, you like Ernst Lubitsch should be no stranger to classic film fans, but this is back in his silent period. Basically, Three Women is about like a mother and daughter who it's like a wealthy matron, and she gets kind of taken in by this con man swindler dude, who eventually sees that he can possibly get in good with her daughter, and who is much younger and more attractive. But basically, he is trying to pay off his own debts by taking advantage of this wealthy family, and it's like the drama within that. It's pretty well done. It's a nice melodrama. It's a snappy 70 minutes, so it's not going to like draw things out too much. I think the characters act pretty naturally. I mean, being a picture from the 1920s, I don't think there's really anyone that I could point to and be like, this person stars in it, and you would know them. But everyone does a pretty good job. It has a new 4K restoration. I think it's performed by the Eastman House, and it's really great. There's a new orchestral score by Andrew Earl Simpson. There's a new audio commentary to go along with this, and yeah, it's just a really solid silent film. If you like Ernst Lubitsch and silent films, either or, I think you'll appreciate this release, because Kino's been doing a really good job with their silent films lately, and they're one of the only labels that are consistently servicing that market. Even Warner Archive is very like focused on just sound films. So just being able to get some of these silent film classics, it's just really like a great part of film history. So I'm glad this exists, and I was entertained by it. So Three Women, it's a good release.
Nice. Yeah, I had also seen that, and I would agree. It's so I'm a big Ernst Lubitsch fan, but it's interesting to see him sort of finding his footing. I know that he didn't, for me at least, sort of reach the apex of his like talent to like maybe the 40s. But yeah, this is again, I love like that we're seeing like the beginnings of someone that's intensely talented. So
absolutely.
So my next title is another Warner Archive release, and that is Gold Diggers of 1933. And
I'm so excited for this one. I'm really excited to check this one out.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping that this means there's a look at what's going on feature wise. No, I really hope that this means that they're going to be doing the 35 film as well. But yeah, so this is a very very classic Berkeley-esque romping musical, like the like if you've never seen any of Busby Berkeley's films, they're sort of known for these like super elaborate musical numbers, like choreographed. Actually, people might be more familiar with The Big Lebowski and like that whole like bowling sequence with the women with the pins and stuff. That's all referencing what that choreographer did. So this is like one of his more famous things that he did. And at first I will admit that I wasn't really digging the story, but then I started to kind of come around, because yeah, it is basically an excuse to showcase these like elaborate numbers and musical stuff, but like it did have a really cool love triangle that kind of pulled me in, and it did actually ended up being something that I was really invested in. So if you don't like musicals, I don't know how much this would convert you, but it is a lot of fun. And just these musical sequences that are so amazingly choreographed, it is just something that you kind of have to see to believe. It really it feels difficult just describing it to do it justice. So again, this was a movie that was from 1933, and looks fantastic. Like I really couldn't find, any flaws with it. It's there's a little bit of where like you can tell the grain's a little heavier because it's an older film, but there really wasn't any like noise or artifacts or scratches. Again, I wasn't able to really find on the back if it was like a 2K scan, but there's the back, it doesn't really say, but yeah, it looks like it. I mean, it looks fantastic. Like they're really if you are already a big fan of this movie and you haven't seen it before, or you only have like a VHS or DVD copy, like it's well worth upgrading. And if you feel like you might like these movies and you've never owned it, again, perfect time because it looks really spectacular. And again, it just highlights these insane, mind-boggling choreographed musical numbers that they were like well known for. So yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. If I'm going strictly from memory, so forgive me, audience, but if I remember the press release closely enough, I believe all three of the releases were from 4K restorations for February. So
Oh, okay.
I think that's what's going on. And I'm really excited about that one because I used to not be such a musical fan, but these Warner Archive releases have really kind of turned me around. Like they just released so many and I'm like, oh, these are really great. So like, if you like something like I discovered last year from them, like the Broadway Melody of 1940 or the Ziegfeld Follies, both of those were really great. So that's why I'm so excited about this release because probably 2 years ago I wouldn't have been as excited as I was, but now I'm like all on board. I'm like, yeah, keep giving me these classic musicals. These are awesome.
Yeah, and it's I believe that this director also did the Ziegfeld Follies, Marvin Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
just tying it all together.
That's what we do here, But yeah, no, thank you so much for clarifying that the 4K, because typically when they have like a 2 or 4K, they will like say it on the back somewhere. But yeah, I can definitely see that because yeah, it really is a beautiful looking restoration.
Absolutely, I cannot wait to see that one. Keeping it old school, back in 1944, we have a Preston Sturges drama, The Great Moment. People may know Preston Sturges from like Sullivan's Travels or The Lady Eve. This stars Joel McCrea and Betty Field. This is a pretty simple biopic. It's about the man who basically developed anesthesia and how he went about like developing that process, because before that people were just having surgeries and having to like bite down on stuff and just like endure excruciating pain. So just like on the basis of just a guy who did really cool stuff, like this is a really interesting story, just seeing how people kind of laughed him out of the room and like did not think that this was ever going to be a thing. It's pretty short, it's 81 minutes. It doesn't really like the dramatic bits, they probably are dramatized a little bit. I mean, it makes sense, but I think as far as like telling a pretty simple contained story, it does a pretty good job. It's not like the most innovative plot, but it's like an important part of like human history. Like modern medicine would be totally different if we didn't have anesthesia. So as a film, it is also like it's pretty entertaining. It's not like the best movie ever, but it's like perfectly solid. If the subject matter interests you, I think it'll be an entertaining watch. There's like some really like pretty funny moments as well, surprisingly. So yeah, there's not much I can really go into in depth for this one, but it's also from like an older master. It's not like newly restored, but it's like perfectly serviceable for what it is. It's like there's some density fluctuations or some nicks and scratches, but it's not overwhelming. And there is a supplement that celebrates the career of Preston Sturges on there. So Preston Sturges films. I think it also got participation from Preston Sturges' son along with it. So that's a pretty interesting supplement that Kino Classics did for this release.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you were able to take a look at that, because I'm a big Preston Sturges fan. You know, he's kind of like Ernst Lubitsch, where like you know, even when he wasn't like at the apex of his game, he still was always really interesting. So I'm gonna definitely check that one out.
Cool.
So I have one more Warner Archive title, and that is the Three Musketeers in Technicolor. Dun, dun, dun.
Lana Turner.
Yeah, so this is another one that I had heard of, but I had never actually seen before. So it's a pretty breezy, fun film. You know, it's one of those old like epic costume films. And you know, Gene Kelly, like you said, Lana Turner, but it has some really fun supporting actors like Vincent Price and a really young Angela Lansbury. Just kind of wild, but
yeah,
she's great as always. And so this film actually was nominated for its color photography, and wow, it looks fantastic. So this is as it says, Technicolor. So the other films that I did were like black and white films, but I mean here, like the colors really pop. You know, it was kind of jaw-dropping, just that like how you could actually see like the textures on the costumes, like it's that like fine of detail. Like the color contrast is really handled in a really nice way. Like again, it's not too bright, but it's not too muted. A lot of work and thought certainly seems to be like behind this release. So again, I liked it. It's a little daunting because it is like 2 hours long. And there was some times when I was a little bit bored, but if you sort of like these big spectacle high fantasy movies, you certainly will like this one. If you're not already a fan, I don't know if it exactly would like convert you. Maybe something like The Adventures of Robin Hood might be a better gateway, but yeah, it's really fun. And again, really fantastic looking.
Awesome. Really excited for that one. This next release that I have is nothing like that release. This is kind of like a silly 80s comedy from the Best Drawn Video collection line from Lionsgate, and that is Dream a Little Dream. So everyone, all you Corey Feldman and Corey Haim fans, rejoice. You got another one checked off your bucket list. This one, it's not great, I'll be honest with you, but it's entertaining enough. It's like a classic body switch movie, except kind of slightly different. Despite his prominence, Corey Haim is not actually like as much of a lead. He's more of a supporting character to Corey Feldman. It's about this like kind of aging older couple, one of which is played by Jason Robards, who people might know from like Magnolia. They are kind of trying to like do some basically like transcendental meditation stuff to try to like prolong their spirits and like join them in like the spirit world. It's like they're doing some weird mystical stuff to try to get the most out of their lives. And through this, these two get transported partially or wholly, depending on the character, into the bodies of like Corey Feldman and young Meredith Salinger, who some people will know from various 80s flicks and is now married to Patton Oswalt. Fun fact. So it's kind like it goes to some interesting places. It actually is kind of like pretty sad and dark at points. But overall, like if you kind of are a sucker for these kind of 80s high concept comedies, you can't really fault this one. It kind of plays out as as one does from an 80s comedy. Um, there's also Harry Dean Stanton has a role in it, and I always love seeing Harry Dean Stanton in pretty much anything.
Nice.
Rest in peace. So yeah, this movie's not a classic, but it's pretty solid if you like that genre. This release, it has like an audio commentary. It has a new interview with Corey Feldman. Still up for talking about this, I guess. So that's pretty interesting. The transfer is inconsistent, I'll say. Some shots look really great and look like it says digitally restored. It doesn't say from like a 2K or 4K, and I do not think it was. I think it was just they took an old master and kind of like freshened it up, but not like too much. Because some scenes also look kind of dark and grainy, like not like film grain way, but like overly grainy. And like compressed and like lacking fine detail. Like it can be really grainy, but still have fine detail, and I'll love it. But if it's like kind of like mushy, I don't like that. But then other shots look really great. So it's a mixed bag, but it's probably the best we're going to get with this title. And it's a pretty good release. It comes with the digital code too, which I think is the only title I'm talking about this week that comes with the digital code. So it's really like budget price. It's probably about $10 or $12 right now. So if you're a fan of 80s comedies, it's pretty decent. Otherwise, you're good.
Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. I probably one I wouldn't run out to get, but maybe if it was like on sale or something. I know like the Vestron titles get to be pretty reasonable. So so my next one is again very different, but it is Shooter with Mark Wahlberg. And it's a 4K steelbook with digital code. So it's a little difficult to see, but it does have some features that I believe was ported over. I don't think any of this is like new, ported over from the previous release. As far as the movie goes, it certainly is very 2007. Like you know, you can tell that it's very much like a product of you know, post 9/11 America, but it's kind of one of those like I have to be in the mood for it, but I do like these kind of big dumb, you know, shoot 'em ups with lots of explosions, and it's not particularly deep. There's the back, by the way.
Nice.
So, you know, based on this cover, you know exactly what you're getting. So on the inside, it does have a digital code that's not in there right now, but you know, I would pop the disc open, but it's just like more of this, so it's not really that exciting. But the packaging is overall really nice. It does look a little like more refreshed than the previous release. And again, it's like a 15-year-old movie, so it's not like that old, but it certainly has a nice refreshed look. You know, it's always really impressive of how like Paramount's been taking some back catalog films and like giving them a new life essentially. So you know, I was overall really pleased with how this looks and sounds. And again, no new features, but it does have everything ported over. So yeah, whether or not you like or gonna like it or not just depends on if you like big dumb action movies, which sometimes I do. So
yeah, who doesn't every once in a while?
Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone was paying attention to me and they saw me just like looking around, what I was looking for is to see where in the room my old Blu-ray of Shooter is that I still haven't watched, that I probably had for 10 years shamefully because I have a problem, but it's like up here a little bit. But I was just like, man, I can't believe I still haven't watched that movie, but now I have the 4K, so
There you go.
now's the time. Now is the time.
Yeah, that's that is kind of the common thread of today's video. It's just like, if you haven't seen these movies, like this is a great time to just check them out. It's again, it's like it's not a deep movie, but gosh, is it fun. So
yeah, and it spawned a TV series with Ryan Phillippe that I also have not watched yet, but always intend to.
Oh wow, I did not. Is this series just called Shooter?
Yeah, it was like on for like 2 or 3 seasons on USA. It was a few years back, but my parents seem to like it, so shout out to them. Like they're telling me to watch it, so I'll watch it one day.
All right, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I did not even know that a series of from that existed. So
yeah, I have like an ever-growing, like never-ending list of titles to catch up on sometime, and I already watch way too much. But speaking of watching too much, I'm going to continue the 80s cheesiness, and I'm going to give you Mill Creek's Side Out. Ooh, look at that cover. Look at that cover. Yes.
I'm sure the movie is just as subtle as the cover.
It is. I mean, it's not quite as bad as this cover. And there is like an alternate cover underneath the slipcase, but still, there you go. So yeah, this stars C. Thomas Howell and Peter Horton, who I do not know. But C. Thomas Howell I know, and I do like. As you can guess, this movie's not deep. It is about a basically middle to lower class kid who goes out to California to, I think, intern for his uncle's law firm, and in which they like serve eviction notices. Like he's sent to serve eviction notices, and while he is out doing that, he kind of gets caught up in this world of beach volleyball, as one does. But he's like passing himself off to like this girl as like one of them, like not working for like a fancy law firm, and that causes tension, of course. But basically, this is just all plot to like class distinctions, like rich people versus poor people, eviction, but then also mostly it's just a lead up to a beach volleyball game, and all the drama that comes with that. It's not great. It's kind of stupid. Just based on this cover, if this movie is for you or not. It's not any better than you think it's going to be, and I don't think it's really worse than you think it's probably exactly what you think it's going to be. This release from Mill Creek is like there's no special features. The master is really dated. Mostly it's stable. There's like a one point near the end of the film that looked like it had like major damage for like 5 seconds, and I was like, whoa, what is happening right here? How did they not try to do something with this? So there's like a moment of like really major damage, but otherwise it's like passably old. Mill Creek, they're more known for their budget releases, so they're like, we want to give you value price stuff rather than like the best quality. Some stuff of theirs is good quality, but a lot of their stuff is more like friendly to your wallet. So it's like a pretty cool slipcover. I'm not sure if that's going to convince anyone to like take a chance on this movie that otherwise wouldn't. It is what it is. Like it's fine. It's fine. It's passively entertaining.
Yeah, that sounds cool. It sounds like if you're in the mood, kind of like with Shooter, if you're in the mood for like something that's like cheesy and again, you know what you're getting, as you say. Mm-hmm. Like it's not like Hamlet.
Yeah. They all can't be Criterion releases.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like I love a nice bit of cheesy schlock. So
Yeah.
my next release is again very opposite, and that is The Boy Behind the Door, and that is from RLJE.
Nice.
And beautiful cover. As you can, it's kind of hard to see, but like it's a little bit raised, like they usually have, like the lettering. So it does have the slipcover, and there are some pretty nice features. Usually, they always have a little something for fans. No reversible art, but that's what the inside looks like. And oh boy, have you seen this movie?
No, like just seeing that on like you saying you were gonna talk about it, I was like, I have not received that yet. I need to contact them.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's very tense. That's one of the biggest sort of appeals is it is like a very like gripping your seat sort of like thriller, because you are really invested in the characters. So I can't say too much because there are a lot of twists and I don't want to give anything away. I will just say that it's a very bleak film also. If you are kind of easily disturbed by like children in peril, it might be one you might want to skip, but gosh, it's really good. And it's a new film. RLJE always does a really nice job at doing a nice kind of up convert from like digital, so you have a nice like clean, crisp look. It's a very muted sort of color palette, but like because it's so darkly lit, it does sort of thrive on that like 1080p rather than like watching it like streaming. So yeah, it's if you haven't seen it and you want to check it out, if you want like a really good thriller, and again you don't mind some of that with like the heavy subject matter, I highly recommend it. It's really good. It's one of those like I heard really good things, but I was kind of dragging my feet on it. But getting this release sort of like gave me a really good incentive to like sit down and actually like watch it, and I was not disappointed. So RLJE always puts out really quality products. So this is certainly no exception.
Awesome. I'm really excited about that. Like I said, I always really like Shudder has some really good films, and just like whenever I see like one that's really highly acclaimed, I'm like, I need to make time for that because there's more to horror than just like the mainstream stuff. Like most of like the really good stuff is like hidden, so I want to seek that out.
Yeah, it's again, it's very heavy. It's something that like I have to be in that certain sort of headspace to like deal with stuff like that, but it's well worth it in my opinion.
Awesome. My final film is another one from Mill Creek, and it is kind of like, I don't subscribe to guilty pleasures, but if there was going to be one, I guess you could call this one. And that is For Richer or Poorer with Tim Allen and Kirstie Alley. This is probably more so one for my heart because it's a favorite of my wife, Jessica's, who I co-host my podcast with. And for those who need a refresher on For Richer or Poor, it's about a couple who's like a wealthy couple who their accountant kind of messes with their finances and embezzles some stuff, and they get into some legal trouble with the IRS, and they go hide out the only place they won't be found in this Amish community until their lawyer can get things like situated with the IRS. So that's the basic plot. It's kind of silly. It's a nice because it's like a journey of a couple who are kind of like at odds with each other at the beginning, and then through going back to like getting to the core of their relationship, they like find like their love for one another once again, and then like an appreciation of like the slower paced life. So yeah, it's just a movie that's like comforting to me. I know it's not like great, but uh, I do like in this movie. I like both of these actors as people. They're a little iffy, but in this movie, uh, at this time in this movie, I do enjoy them. The release itself. This is my history with this release. I know what I just said about Mill Creek, but this this movie was put out previously by Universal as like one of their kind of like pressed made on demand discs. So it was like a pressed disc, but they're usually like a higher price point. So they usually can't get them less than like $20. But then Mill Creek released the same movie from the same master. So it actually looks pretty good. It's like not like a brand new master, but it's like more of a newer master in good shape. There's like maybe just slightly more compression to it, but this is like basically the same disc, maybe minus a few special features. But like if you just want the like a cheap version of this movie, that is like a good release. So yeah, it's a comforting movie for me. It's a pretty good release budget. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I it's so interesting because I think I told you this, but like I grew up like actually around Amish and Mennonite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was quite interesting watching this because this is also very nostalgic for me because again I sort of grew up around like not really everyday interactions, but like it wasn't not extremely strange for like us to like visit our Amish neighbors, which sounds really weird. But I mean like they're incredibly nice people. And so yeah, and I did grow up watching this. As you say, it's kind of unfortunate that some of the leads are, maybe not great people. But yeah, it is. I remember liking it. It's one that I haven't revisited in a little while, so I should actually check that out. And it's cool to know that the transfers pretty good.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Cool. So I saved my best for last, and that is the Arrow, An American Werewolf in London 4K. This thing is a beauty. So let me just show off.
That's so cool. I want that. Please.
And yeah, it's really spectacular. So you all probably know this, but like they will do a standard edition, but it will not have this booklet. And that's a pretty thick booklet there. And yeah, like I know I've showed off these booklets before, but they're always like really nicely done. Like the printing's really fantastic. It comes with a poster of the artwork. And it also comes with a reversible, one second. All right, I'm just gonna unfold this whole thing. So that is the, I think that gets pretty much this more standard release cover. And then this is like the new artwork featured on the cover. So yeah, as far as like nuts and bolts of how it looks, it's really incredible. I will be honest, I did not own the 2019 Blu-ray release, and so I'm unable to sort of compare, but just watching like the old Universal Blu-ray, I mean, this is certainly like night and day. There's a lot of attention paid to like the fine detail. There is a lot of like night scenes that really truly come to life in this new restoration. Like it's so crisp and clean. and you know, it's not even really overly grainy either. Like it's I mean, the grain is there obviously because it's a shot on 35, and so you're going to get that, but it's like done in a way where it's really fine, and it never really became distracting, which is always sort of the goal with these releases. And it was really fun. Like I rewatched this the other night with my husband, and he had never seen it before. So it was funny because I got the Howling on 4K.
Oh yeah.
So we did, like, the one night we watched the Howling in 4K, and then the following night we watched American Werewolf in London in 4K. So now there isn't anything brand new to this except for the 4K. Again, here's a shot of the extras. I will say that one of the incredible new feature, well, sorry, not new, but if you haven't owned this already, like myself, there is a hour and 17-minute feature called Mark of the Beast, the legacy of the Universal Werewolf. And it's incredible. It is a really cool evolution of the werewolf movies at Universal, going back to Werewolf of London, all the way to I think like some of the newer ones they talked about were like the Wolfman remake, which I will die on the hill that it's such an underrated movie. But really fantastic. Like it's such a highlight for that release. And so, you know, if you already own the Blu-ray, the 2019 Blu-ray, it just depends on if you really want that like 4K disc or not. That's really like the big sort of like you know, question you need to ask. Oh, but and it also comes with, I almost forgot these cards, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so like and as far as like review goes, I mean, it's a classic. It's such a fun movie. I actually got to meet David Naughton, which was really awesome.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, again, you know, if you're like a purist and you want the absolute best looking, you're gonna want to double dip with the 4K. If you're a little more of a casual fan, I mean, the 2019 transfer is from all accounts really stellar. And again, you do get all the features. I don't know if you get the booklet, or if the booklet is just exclusive to this release, but certainly when they do a standard release of the 4K, it won't have that, or the poster. So I think it's, even if you own it previously, I think it's well worth double dipping.
Yeah, I am really excited about this release. I watched this movie for the first time a few years back, and like, I really did enjoy it. Like the transformation effects in this movie are crazy, and I need to see this in 4K. Like I need to see all of the like gnarly special effects and perfect detail. That's what I need in my life. So I'm so excited that this finally got a 4K release.
Yeah, it was really fun getting to revisit the Howling and American Werewolf in London and in 4K, because you know, you did a really awesome video about the Howling in 4K, and yeah, so it's a really good release. And Andre and I did a Return of the Living Geeks video where we talk about like which one we kind of like better, the Howling or American Werewolf in London. So
Cool.
I'm not sure when that will be released, but if it's released, this presumably it'll already be up by the time this is up. So I will link that in the description.
Awesome. I can't wait to check that out too.
Yeah, so that is everything that I have this week. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, definitely consider giving it a like and subscribe, and definitely thank you for hanging out with us and checking out some cool releases.